Stop acting poor. My mother said it like an insult, not quietly, not privately. She stood in the driveway with her arms crossed, keys dangling from her fingers, while the tow truck pulled away with my car. My car, I corrected, my voice steady. She laughed, a sharp, dismissive sound. Not anymore. I sold it this morning. You weren't using it properly anyway. The rain hadn't started yet, but the sky was heavy with it, thick, gray, pressing down. The kind of air that makes everything feel slower and more deliberate. You can take the bus, she continued, already turning toward the house. You're always pretending you're broke. It's embarrassing. Normal adults don't cling to junk cars like security blankets. Junk car. I'd paid for that car myself. Every installment, every insurance renewal. I kept the title in a folder she'd never bothered to open. She didn't ask. She didn't warn me. She didn't need permission because, in her mind, nothing I owned was ever really mine. She thought selling it was discipline. I watched the truck disappear down the street. I didn't yell. I didn't chase it. I didn't ask where the money went. I pulled out my phone instead. "Don't be dramatic," she said over her shoulder. "What are you going to do? Call the police?" "No," I replied calmly. I looked down at the screen, already dialing. "I'm calling the bank." Before I tell you what the bank asked for and why my mother's hands started shaking when they checked one signature, tell me this in the comments. What's the most controlling thing a parent has ever done and called it help? I didn't follow the truck. That's what she expected. Panic, chasing taillights, a raised voice that would let her frame this as another one of my episodes. I gave her nothing. I stood there for a moment, keys warm in my palm, watching her confidence stretch just a little too far. She believed the sale was finished, done, irreversible. That belief settled into her posture, the relaxed shoulders, the smug half turn away from me. "Don't start sulking," she said, already unlocking the front door. "This is good for you. Maybe now you'll learn how real money works." I nodded once. Silence confuses people like her. They need reaction the way engines need fuel. Without it, they over-explain. They fill gaps. They make mistakes. Inside the house, she poured herself coffee, rattling on about financial responsibility and image. I didn't interrupt. I watched her hands instead, the way they moved quickly when she talked about money, the way her eyes darted when she mentioned the buyer. I stepped outside to make the call. The bank answered on the second ring. "I need to verify a title transfer, a vehicle sold this morning without my authorization." There was a pause, keyboard clicks, a polite intake of breath. "Of course, we'll just need to confirm one thing." Behind me, through the open door, my mother's voice carried, confident, careless. The bank asked for the signature. I smiled. Her voice drifting through the house pulled me backward into a pattern I knew too well. This wasn't the first thing she'd taken and called it help. 3 years earlier, she'd handled my finances after spotting my savings account balance on a shared computer. I'd come home to find my debit card missing and a lecture waiting for me at the kitchen table. "You don't need this much cash sitting around," she'd said, tapping the screen like she was diagnosing an illness. "It makes you lazy." I watched her move my money into an account she controlled, smiling like she'd done me a favor. When I asked why, she laughed. "Because you just waste it. You like struggling. You like playing small." That was always her accusation. If I drove an older car, I was pretending. If I saved quietly, I was hiding. If I didn't show off, I was lying. She measured success by how loudly it announced itself. Anything subtle made her uncomfortable. Anything she couldn't monitor felt like a threat. The car had bothered her for months, not because it was unreliable, but because it contradicted her story. It proved I could own something outright without her help, without her permission. So, she reframed it. Junk car, security blanket, lesson. Standing outside with the bank on the line, I realized something with sudden clarity. She didn't sell my car to teach me responsibility. She sold it because it reminded her I didn't need her anymore. And people who need control can't tolerate independence. The bank line stayed open while the representative typed. I could hear it in the rhythm of the keys. Steady, methodical, unhurried. This wasn't an emergency to her. It was a process. Processes favor people who prepare. My mother believed I acted poor because I didn't spend loudly, because I didn't upgrade cars every few years or announce purchases like milestones. What she never understood was that I'd learned early how to separate appearance from reality. I didn't avoid debt because I was scared of money. I avoided it because I understood leverage. The car wasn't just transportation, it was collateral. Clean title, no lien, paid in full. I'd structured everything that way on purpose, quietly, over time, while she was busy mistaking restraint for weakness. Inside, I heard cabinets opening, the scrape of a chair. She was still talking, probably rehearsing how she'd justify the sale later. Maybe she'd already spent the money in her head. The bank rep cleared her throat. "I see the transfer," she said, "but there's a discrepancy." I leaned against the railing, watching clouds roll in. "What kind?" I asked. "The signature doesn't match the registered owner on file." That was the moment. Because my mother didn't just sell my car, she forged authority she never had. And she had no idea the account tied to that title wasn't simple, wasn't casual, and definitely wasn't something she could bluff her way through. The rep continued, voice professional but sharper now. "I'm going to need to escalate this to our fraud team." Behind me, the house went quiet. Too quiet. The quiet behind me broke fast. "What are you doing?" my mother called from the kitchen, her voice suddenly sharper, closer. I didn't turn around. "Just fixing something," I said into the phone. She stepped onto the porch, coffee mug still in her hand, confidence slipping just enough to show the strain underneath. "There's nothing to fix. The car's gone. Money's already transferred." That was it. Transferred. She said it too quickly, like she needed it to be true. The bank rep was still speaking, low and controlled. "Ma'am, because the signature doesn't match, we've frozen the transaction. The funds are being held pending review." My mother's mug froze halfway to her lips. "Frozen," she repeated. "No, that's not necessary. I'm her mother." There it was, the title she always used when authority ran out. "She gave me permission," she added louder now. "She's just embarrassed she couldn't afford it anymore." I watched her hands start to move, too fast, too restless. This wasn't anger, this was fear leaking through her certainty. "Mom," I said calmly, finally turning to face her, "whose name was on the title?" She opened her mouth, closed it, then tried again. "I was just helping. She acts poor on purpose. You have no idea how hard it is to watch your own child make bad financial decisions." The bank rep cut in, voice firmer now. "Ma'am, this involves a forged authorization. I need you to stop speaking and remain available." My mother laughed, a thin, brittle sound. "This is ridiculous." But her eyes were already darting, calculating, searching for an exit. Desperate people don't argue facts. They try to outrun them. I lowered the phone slightly, just enough to let my voice soften. "Mom," I said quietly now, tired, smaller, "this doesn't need to turn into a whole thing." Her head snapped toward me. Good. She heard weakness. "I didn't mean to cause trouble. If there's paperwork missing, we can fix it. I don't want anyone thinking you did something wrong." Her shoulders loosened a fraction. The panic retreated just enough to let confidence rush back in. "Exactly," she said quickly. "This is just a misunderstanding. Banks overreact. You always make things sound bigger than they are." I nodded, eyes down. Let the silence stretch again. "What do they want?" she asked, forcing casual into her voice. "Another form? I can sign whatever they need." There it was. The reach. "The rep said they just need confirmation from the owner," I replied. "In person might be easiest. They mentioned the branch downtown." Her relief was immediate, visible. "Fine, we'll go together. I'll explain it properly." Together. She still thought this was about control. I lifted the phone back to my ear. Yes, I told the bank rep softly. We'll come in. My mother smiled, already convinced she'd handled it. She had no idea she'd just agreed to walk into a room designed for clarity. And clarity is dangerous when you've been lying for years. The bank branch downtown smelled like carpet cleaner and quiet authority. Glass walls, soft voices, a place designed to make people lower their volume and mind their words. My mother walked in like she owned it. She wore her confident smile, the one she used on tellers and neighbors and anyone she assumed would defer to her age. She leaned in close to me as we waited. "Let me do the talking," she whispered. "You get flustered with these things." I nodded. Of course I did. The representative from earlier appeared, clipboard in hand, polite but unreadable. She didn't shake my mother's hand. She looked directly at me. "Thank you for coming in," she said. "We'll just need to verify a few details." We were led into a small office, door closed. Quiet settled in. My mother crossed her legs, relaxed again. "This won't take long," she said lightly. "Families sell cars for each other all the time." The rep didn't respond. She placed the title copy on the desk, then another document, then a third. "Before we proceed," she said, "we need to confirm one thing." She turned the page so it faced my mother. "Can you explain why this signature doesn't match the owner's verified signature on file?" My mother leaned forward and froze. Her hand hovered over the paper, fingers trembling just enough to notice. That's my handwriting," she said slowly. "Yes, that's the problem." My mother laughed, not because anything was funny, but because she didn't know what else to do. "That's ridiculous." She pushed the paper away like it offended her. "I signed it for her. She lets me handle things. She gets overwhelmed." The representative didn't react. She simply slid another document forward. "This," she said calmly, "is the signature we have on file, from the original purchase, from the insurance binder, from the lien release." She looked at me. All identical. Then she looked back at my mother. "And this one," she continued, tapping the forged line, "is not." My mother's jaw tightened. "You're making this complicated," she snapped. "I was helping my daughter. She acts poor. She doesn't understand assets." The rep's pen paused midair. "Just to be clear, are you stating that you signed this document without being the registered owner?" Silence. I didn't look at my mother. I didn't rescue her. I didn't soften anything. She exhaled hard. "I didn't think it mattered. It's family. The car was just sitting there. I sold it so she'd stop pretending." There it was. Admission, intent, justification. The rep nodded once, already typing. "Thank you. That's all I needed." My mother's confidence evaporated. "Wait," she said, her voice thinner now. "What does that mean?" The rep didn't answer right away. She stood. "It means this is no longer a customer service issue. It's a fraud investigation." Two people entered the office without rushing. They didn't wear uniforms. They didn't need to. One introduced himself as fraud compliance. The other didn't introduce himself at all. He just placed a recorder on the desk and turned it on. My mother's posture changed instantly. "This is unnecessary," she said, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "It's a misunderstanding between family." The compliance officer didn't argue. He slid a form across the table instead. "Vehicle title fraud," he said calmly. "Forgery of a financial instrument. Unauthorized sale of collateral tied to a registered account." Each word landed heavier than the last. "The funds from the sale are frozen," he continued. "The buyer has been notified. The vehicle is flagged. And this statement," he tapped the paper sheet signed, "is now part of a formal report." My mother looked at me then. Not angry, not superior. Small. "You told them?" she whispered. "I didn't have to," I replied. "You already did." The recorder blinked red. Outside the glass office, the bank kept moving like nothing had happened. Inside, everything she controlled was already gone. She reached for control the way she always did, fast, frantic, instinctive. You didn't have to humiliate me like this, my mother said, voice shaking now. This could have been handled privately. You always do this. You overreact. There it was. Not remorse, revision. You know I was just trying to help, she added, leaning toward me, lowering her voice like we were allies again. If you tell them you gave permission, this all goes away. The compliance officer didn't interrupt. He let her talk. She turned desperate. I raised you. I sacrificed everything. You owe me. I met her eyes, steady. No, I said quietly. I paid for my car. You sold it. That's the truth. Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. The lie had nowhere left to stand. The car was recovered 2 days later. I didn't go with the tow truck. I didn't need the spectacle. The bank handled everything quietly, efficiently, like problems should be handled once they're no longer emotional. My mother didn't call, not to apologize, not to explain. She texted once. You didn't have to do that. I didn't respond. I took the bus for a week, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. There was something grounding about it, watching people mind their own business, sitting in silence that wasn't heavy. Control doesn't always look like screaming. Sometimes it looks like selling something that isn't yours. And freedom doesn't always look like winning. Sometimes it looks like walking away with your name still clean and your keys back where they belong.